The United States has a remarkably average public education system, managing to consistently score above most developing countries, but failing to match the quality of education in developed nations, even ones significantly smaller, like Estonia and Singapore. Now, out of 195 countries, 25 doesn't seem so bad. That is until you see how much is spent to maintain that rank. If you account for the total public spending for education, it reaches a staggering $1.98 trillion. The vast sums of money required to pay for these schools causes a great resentment towards those schools and their staff, especially when students underperform. And even though so much is spent on education, most teachers feel that they are still not being paid enough for the work they do. Major sources of education spending comes from student aid, teaching costs, and extracurricular activities. But a common cost for all schools and classrooms is teachers. The average salary of a grade school teacher is $42,000, while the average salary of a high school teacher is $58,000. The classes become more expensive the more equipment the lessons require. PE, lab science, engineering courses, music, art all require extra funds to pay for the needed equipment. However, math and English courses require very little equipment to be taught effectively. Even though these classes are the cheapest to maintain, they are the most critical classes in grade school education. All future courses in middle school and high school are totally dependent on the student's knowledge of mathematics and English. So, what if grade schools only taught math and English? Well, the first obvious change would be in spending. Money for teachers, materials, and staff would drop dramatically. Schools would also have completely different schedules. Without needing to leave time for extra courses, schools can spend more time on math and English. Students would also only be responsible for managing 2 courses, instead of having to manage 5 or 6. And students that are underperforming in one subject or the other would be far more noticeable than if they failed one subject in a 6 or 7 course system. Also, due to the relaxed schedules, schools would have the opportunity to give students a more advanced background in math and English before high school. Greater funding can be provided to extracurricular programs for students at a younger age. Even though some course subjects would not be taught in schools, the information is still widely available online. Students have access to countless lessons on multiple platforms. The subject students struggle with the most is mathematics. Our solution to this would be to create a program which specifically aids struggling students. Most student aid is dependent on the student's wealth. If the student is poor, then they receive more aid. However, in a targeted aid program, it would be based on actual performance of the student over an assumed lack of quality. The program would administer a proficiency test to schools before the school receives aid. Then, if a significant amount of students are doing poorly, tutoring materials and extra funds are provided. The tutoring materials, as well as the subject material, would also be provided online. Even though the United States is currently 25th, hopefully with a greater emphasis on mathematics and English, it can make it to number 1. Thank you for watching, and we hope you consider our application.